Good morning, Democrats. Ahmad Anderson, District 5, Richmond City Council. I am your native son and been a Democrat even before I was registered to vote. I'm running for the Richmond City Council to really expand economic development, job creation. I'm running to clean up and provide safe neighborhoods. I'm running to address the unhoused situation and the crisis of housing throughout our community. I've been involved in this city for over 39 years as someone who ran for office back in 1985. I didn't win, but I've been actively involved in our community, in Youth Service Bureau, Child Care Council, economic development, Get Out to Vote, and working with our youth throughout the community around careers. I'm a human resources professional. I worked at the Gardens of Golden Gate Park. I'm involved in DEI, but I call it Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. I continue to grow the legacy of my family, the Anderson family, both which have served as city council and mayors of the city. Some say I'm running because that's what I'm supposed to do, but this is Ahmad Anderson running here today. I would say to you, I'd hang my hat on what services they provided around the growth of this city so that we are truly a city of pride and purpose. I'd hang my hat on the fact that I've worked here at the NAACP, working for our city and the rights of all, women, LGBTQIA, African Americans, Latinx as well. I continue to step up for our communities, not only in District 5, but throughout the city of Richmond. I continue to look out for our merchants who have suffered by being on the Economic Development Committee, but also on the Richmond Chamber of Commerce. I look forward to being your city council person representing the city of Richmond in District 5. As I say to people, I want your support, I need your support, I've got to have your support. But most importantly, come alive in District 5 with Ahmad Anderson for Richmond City Council.
All right. District 5 is particularly vulnerable to sea level rise, which threatens contaminated sites along the shoreline. What is your plan to address the environmental and public health risks posed by these sites, and how would you involve the community in the efforts? We'll do the same order. Ahmad?
Thank you. First and foremost, I lived in the South Side all my life. Born in South 18th Street and moved to South 17th Street. From there to 55th and Bayview, where I actually played on the hills over in the area near Zeneca project. And I'll say to you that in my last conversation I had with Supervisor John Joya, I talked about Envision 2040, actually in this forum of West County Dems, one of the meetings. And we know that Envision 2040 speaks to the unincorporated areas, but there are folks that we need to talk about who are impacted in those areas along the shoreline, the increase of the sea level, and how we talk about land use, how we talk about responsible growth, how we talk about housing and policies that impact that. That area is my primary focus around environmental justice for a young man who's grown up with asthma and pollutants in this community. It's interesting how now this has become a big topic, but it's where individuals have lived all their life who are people of color. And we've complained about that, but we've been employed by the same companies that have caused injustice to us around environmental injustice. I think policies that speak to the community, holding people responsible, making sure that we not continue to pollute the community, and making sure that our voices are heard around policies and involve transparency on what is going to impact them before developments begin, and then make sure that we understand the public health issues that are aligned with that as well.
Okay. Back to Ahmad. How do you intend to work with state and federal agencies to secure funding and resources for mitigating the impacts of sea level rise on these contaminated sites within District 5? You're muted.
I was muted, I apologize. One of the things that I've talked about, as I've already said to you once thus far, is Envision 2040. 2040 aligns with what the county believes is right about the unincorporated areas. But as just was mentioned by Ms. Wilson, that the AstraZeneca site is not an unincorporated area. We need the same support to minimize the pollution and the rise of the sea line in our communities. Those areas that go from 55th and Bayview down Carlson along the marina are areas that are not being addressed, and they need to be addressed. Those are where the most vulnerable people live in the south side of Richmond, from the tip of the annex down through Crescent Park, down through Carlson Boulevard, down through Cutting in the Cortez Stage and Richmond Village. We don't talk about that, but we talk about what environmental justice is and it relates to those folks. And having lived there in the community, we need to put a stop to that, but align with, as was mentioned, the county responsibility, the city's responsibility, and work with our state legislators to push back on pollution and the causes of those toxic waste in our communities. There should not be any more development in those areas. There should not be conversations without impact to talk about a climate action plan, talk about the things around what can be important around the green blue deal, what can be important around the local environmental action plans, what can be talked about, talking about national renewable energy in our communities, so we move away from fossil fuels. We've done a lot of talking, but we've not had an action plan. And this has been since 2012 in the general plan that we've been moving to 2023, where we talked about the new green blue deal. But what have we done about it? What have we done about it? And in some of the most recent developments, we can get all the money in the world, but it's like building a house. Let's see what Cynthia's saying, and that's an issue.
So for this, we're going to have Sue go first. The closure of Stage Elementary has impacted many families in District 5. What are your plans to ensure that the students displaced by this closure receive the wraparound services they need, such as counseling, tutoring, and after-school programs?
And don't need you to repeat the question because I'm a product of Stage School. And since this issue came into light, you all have seen me not only on television, but I've attended every community meeting that's related back to Stage. I'd say to you that, as I said before, that the documents that were provided on the history of the Stage and the infrastructure and the report that was sent to the state was fraudulent, that we surely have taken a look, as I said on television, who evaluates the evaluator. And the evaluator I know presently is on leave at this particular time. I'd also say and agree that this has been an issue that's been a long issue, but school systems that do well are connected to city council and governments who liaison to have more impact and insight on their education and well-being and the future of their students. To say that we don't have that spot, that we do. We had a liaison program with Wisconsin Cross Unified School District, which has been expanded. We've even talked about, as I heard earlier by Councilperson Melvin Williams, Kids First program that was started many years ago by my mother when she was city council. We have Richmond Promise, but we can't just throw money at it. We have to be involved in the process. Having the constant conversations about policy, procedure, and the environments of which our schools are being involved with, because our kids of Richmond attend those schools, it has to be some systemic issues around that. Why that school that's predominantly African-American Latinx has not been addressed for some time. This is not the first time this come up. We've gone to do the super schools in Pinole, we've done the super schools in El Cerrito, and they were bumped. Stage was bumped to the bottom and being able to get those type of resources. So we're not just finding about this, but those who are involved, both city and West County Council Unified School District, if you didn't create the monster, you sure enough fed the monster. So everyone should be held accountable. There are other issues than what, and you need to be held accountable.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to switch over to District 6. And so that is Claudia Jimenez and Sean Dunning. Thank you. So 3 minutes. Is it okay? We're going to start with Claudia Jimenez.
Yes, Ahmad Anderson, District 5. Although we were only asked environmental questions, we have a revenue issue. We talk about not just being involved in receiving corporate funds, but I'd say to you that an organization that has stood on the moral ground of not receiving fossil fuel money just got paid. And if you talk about not being able to stand up to corporations, I'm not Gumby. I will not bend in the way that the wind goes or the money flows. I'm concerned about this city. I'm concerned about the people across near and far. I've slumped for Democrats in Iowa, New York, Atlanta, and in California. But Bates, Rosemary Corbin have endorsed me. I've been endorsed by most of the mayors, except for the city of Richmond. And I'd say to you that that's fine. I've talked to you about what's important. What is important is new leadership, a leadership that is proven, a leadership that's been here, and not just an adopted city, but a city that I've lived in all my life. My skin is in the game. If I mislead you, then you will chase me out of here because I've been here all my life for you Democrats and been active in this party since day one. Thank you.
Thank you.